Welcome back to our final part of our Lost Worlds video series. We're going to talk more about the books themselves. I'm sorry if I ended a little abruptly last time. I was sort of running out of time. I know that YouTube only allows about 10 minutes worth of footage. Well, anyway, let's look at the different books. Let's look at the El Ravenger book here. As you can see, it's all nice black and white pictures. And of course, this one actually has a little strip of a character sheet. And also there's a quick start rules on the back here. Sometimes there's rules on the cover depending on what kind of book you're getting. Yeah, that's basically your basic Lost World book. Now, Lightsaber Duel Pack here, it's basically about the same. There's a larger book character sheet here. Again, because it's larger, there are some attacks listed what they do. That really doesn't come into play too often unless you're using a special character with some sort of special ability or have restrictions. That's basically something I need to bring up because some characters can only use certain attacks if they have it. Like, I know there's characters that can throw items and can only do it if they reload or pick up the item again. As you can see, this book actually has a little bit more of a rule base here. A few more pages of rules. They're not listed in the cover. But again, this is not an official book, but it still works with them. Now let's take a look at the Battletech book here. As you can see, it is sort of the same thing, the same black and white stuff. Battletech books, you actually have to start on page 49 here, the long-range cooling. And as you can see, the sheet actually has 3 different sections for attacks, depending on your range, 3 different ranges. There's also ammunition. A lot of characters will have ammunition for certain weapons. This one is a little bit more pronounced. As you can see, there's also the start shutdown and armor points there. Armor points is equaling hit points, and shutdown number basically is how high you can get your mech's heating system. There's also a pilot card for leveling up your pilot if you want to do the level up system. Yeah. Then, of course, let's look at the Warhammer book. I have a Eldar Eldritch here. As you can see, it's a little different. The art style is more indicative of the comics back in the back in the 80s and 90s of the comic series. As you can see, here there's only 1 number per page. That's part of the reason why this book is not compatible with any of them. The battle books are also the same. They only have 1 number per page. Also, the matrices and the attack listings are done a completely different style. So that's why these books are not compatible with Lost Worlds. Now, anyway, let's look at the Queensblade series. Now, if you're going to be collecting these books, I would be very cautious with the Queensblade series, and I will talk about why a little later. Now, let's see. Let's take a look at the character sheet itself. As you can see, it's full color. Sometimes there will be writing on the back, but all in Japanese. I have an English translated version here. That there are English print versions of the Queensblade books, but only a very limited number were actually printed in English. And you can usually get these through the American distribution. As you can see, it's still the exact same kind of card, just a very large card. Now then, let's actually look at the pages themselves. As you can see, this is a hardcover book, and all the pages are really full color. If you're really into artwork, these are really good books to pick up, but there is a little bit of a warning I have to give, which I will show. Let's see, what is a good picture I can show without having to have an age limit on this? Yeah, as you can see, Queensblade characters, if you even know this series, you know it's infamous for fan service. And as you can see here, characters will lose their clothing as the fight goes on. There are a lot of pictures that really push the limits of how much they can show. I mean, sure, a lot of the naughty bits are still covered, but yeah, this is Japan we're talking about, and some of these books are really not safe for work. I mean, yeah. As you can also see here, there's also character map and character quotes. Again, let me talk more about the content of the Queensblade books. A lot of these really may offend some people. I mean, I know there's a character which has a plant situated that looks kind of like a, well, oh, I don't even know how to say this. Well, there's also characters that are covered in white goo sometimes when they get damaged. There's some characters that look almost completely naked when they get damaged. Yeah, basically, if you're going to be collecting Queensblade books, you might want to be very cautious about what kind of content it is. Don't really show it to your kids. Really, I really suggest you have to be about 17 to get these Queensblade books. And also, you really want to take into consideration how these characters play, too. I mean, that's kind of the real reason why you want to try to pick out a character. Not just because of the aesthetics of the art, but also how they play. Each character has different play styles. For example, let's look at the character sheet here. She actually can throw bolas, which can actually stun enemies. I also have characters that can actually tie up enemies, forcing them to only jump. Characters who can shoot crossbow bolts, characters who actually use guns. There's very few gunslingers out there, but there are quite a few. You also want to take into consideration what kind of tactics or luck or whatever kind of abilities they can use. For the cards here, I mean tactics, I have a spells, luck, I believe there's also skill, there's also items they can equip. Yeah, so basically if you're choosing books, you also want to choose what kind of characters you want and what kind of abilities you want equipped onto them using the cards. Now, I really touched on the cards a little bit, but let's talk a little bit about them, a little bit more about them. As you can see, each card here actually has an ability that can be triggered during a certain condition. Like, for example, here, after a successful swing, you may also do a thrust next turn. So if this condition is triggered, you can actually add this onto your attacks. Like, for example, if you use a swing, you can't do thrust normally. This will actually negate this. Spell cards also can be used if you use magic for certain characters. I'm aware that there's at least 3 or 4 characters that can use magic. This will actually take the place of their normal damage. Let's take a look at this purple spell. For the next 3 turns, take 1 point of damage for each time you don't do a red maneuver. Which actually means that your character, if they don't do a high red attack, they take a point of damage for every turn for the next 3 turns. There's also characters that will poison naturally or drain hit points or that kind of stuff. Here's an item here. Subtract -4 from your body points, but add +1 to red, orange, and attacks, which means this triggers right away. If you have an item card, it basically gives you a modifier depending on the type of character, or you sacrifice in order to gain more of an advantage and that kind of stuff. Now let's look at the luck card here. Luck card. On page 13 or 47, get lucky. Add more 4 to your score, which means you add +4 if you're on a page 13 or a 47. Now, these are another example of an interesting aspect where if you come up to a certain attack, you can actually do more damage or have a special condition. Well, anyway, that's basically all I can really say about the Queensblade and Lost World and Warhammer and Battletech books. I really hope this piqued your interest in the series, and I really hope that you actually take a look. I'll actually include some links where you can actually find books or translation for Queensblade books or whatever in the description. And anyway, have a good night, and I really hope you actually start playing this, and I hope to see you at some of the at the ValleyCon convention in 2013.